This video is sponsored by Squarespace. By now, everyone is aware that these days, movies are far too reliant on franchises. Endless reboots, remakes, sequels, legacy-quels, and cinematic universes. No piece of pre-existing IP is too sacred to be scraped from the bottom of the barrel and regurgitated onto the big screen or streaming platforms. Whether you like a particular property or not, there's no denying that this trend is doing more harm than good. It puts more power into the hands of the corporate owners of these franchises rather than the artists who actually make them. It stagnates our culture as the big studios are trying to repeat previous successes rather than invent new ones. Yet despite the justifiable anger from many moviegoers over this status quo, recent original movies have flopped despite the apparent demand for them. The knee-jerk reaction to this is to blame the masses. We shake our fists in anger, railing against a system and populace that seems interested only in producing and consuming mindless slop, while real art goes underappreciated. While I'm sympathetic to this anger, perhaps there's more to this issue. To make progress on forming a solution, we must first understand the problem completely. And we can explore that problem by taking a look at one of the most unique hit original movies, the box office success and enduring cult classic, The Fifth Element. But first, a word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace, the ultimate tool for creating your own beautiful website. I recently redesigned my website galaxyclasspictures.com using Squarespace's cutting-edge design tools like Blueprint AI, which helped me generate a brand new personalized template, which I then customized using Squarespace's easy-to-use Fluid engine. Squarespace also helps with your site's discoverability with their built-in SEO and domain name features. You can optimize your website so it shows up more often in searches and secure your ideal domain name. No extra fees and no add-ons required. Jump over to Squarespace using the link below to start building your website and use the coupon code Rowan Coleman to get 10% off your first purchase. First of all, perhaps it's worth considering that framing a debate about movies as original versus IP might be a little off base. Because if you stop to think about it, the fact of a movie not being based on an existing franchise is not an inherent strength. Advertising a movie as original is no better than telling an audience that a movie exists. To entice audiences off their couches and into the cinema, a movie needs to offer something more. Filmmakers should ask themselves, what is unique about my movie? What can it offer that audiences can't get anywhere else? What is its value beyond merely existing? In today's short attention span world, original movies need to hook audiences fast with their value statement. That value can come from a clever concept, the pedigree of those involved, innovations behind the production, and so on. But often overlooked is the sheer power of aesthetics. The Creator is a stunning looking movie, but it looks like it could easily take place in the Blade Runner universe. Mickey 17 has a cool premise, but the setting could easily fit into Star Wars. Both movies draw from a visual style that dates back all the way to the 1970s. Artists like Sid Mead and Ralph McQuarrie basically defined what sci-fi movies looked like for decades, and the aforementioned movies don't break with that tradition. The Fifth Element, however, draws inspiration from a totally different set of artists. It instead looks to French comic book artists like Moebius and Jean-Claude Mézières, who even worked on the film as concept artists. Though their work was already influential to some degree, no other movie quite captured their style like The Fifth Element. As a result, The Fifth Element immediately stands out from the pack. It's a style that makes us stop and go, wait, what's that? An aesthetic hook is only part of the equation though. Getting people to try new things is hard. We find comfort in the familiar, but most people will try something new if there's something familiar within the experience. Star Wars pulled this off by transposing coming-of-age fantasy adventure into a space setting. Terminator did this by turning a slasher flick into a sci-fi action love story. The Fifth Element wraps a 90s Bruce Willis action movie in a garish, new-agey outer space adventure. Audiences can latch onto a familiar core element to ground them in the weirdness and chaos that the film throws at them. Once the audience is grounded though, The Fifth Element flips almost every other convention of the genre. Most other popular sci-fi goes for angular designs with lots of greeblies washed in worn silvers, greys, and whites. The Fifth Element, however, is bright and colourful with rounded shapes and opulent decoration. Whereas other sci-fi films are scored with a traditional orchestra, The Fifth Element's music is a grab bag of modernist techno, world music, and ethereal ambience. Beyond the aesthetics, The Fifth Element's world building also stands apart from its closest comparisons. Blade Runner's Los Angeles is oft imitated with its eternal night, oppressive rain, and hazy floodlights, but The Fifth Element's New York sits under cloudy blue skies and burning sunsets. Whereas Blade Runner's action is confined to the dank alleys and rooftops overshadowed by skyscrapers and billboards, The Fifth Element unfolds in the skies, crisscrossed by endless traffic lanes, footbridges, and train lines. The sea level has actually receded rather than risen. Earth is neither a multicultural utopia or a dystopian police state. It has elements of both, creating a world of chaotic extremes and exaggerated satire. There's a distinct European flavour to the way things are framed. Small outbursts of anger are met with extreme militarized violence, while eroticism and sexuality are ever present, and striking workers affecting major transport hubs are just a fact of life. Though much of the action is set in New York, it feels a lot like Paris. Many elements of this world are conceptually similar to other popular sci-fi movies, but engineered from a fresh perspective. The Fifth Element's premise is easy to grasp overall. It's a classic good versus evil battle to save the world. It's a bit odd that the story hinges on magical stones designed to zap a big ball of evil, but we know who to root for and who to root against. But at every turn, it seems the filmmakers ask themselves, how can we shake this up? What twist can we put on this? This extra effort is what makes The Fifth Element so unique, even decades later. Let's start with the characters. Though Corbin Dallas is a pretty typical 90s action hero, there are a few fun details here and there. Like the fact this blue-collar ex-soldier is a fan of opera, that he owns an adorable white cat, and that he's always getting yelled at by his estranged mother. Then there's Lilu, who is repeatedly characterized as a messy big kid. She's rarely ever filmed in a pretty way, and her superhuman athleticism is just as scary in some scenes as it is awesome in others. She's sensitive and somewhat naive, but she also takes charge and goes off on her own when it suits her. She's a quirky and unusual personality, but also a well-rounded character. Vito Cornelius is the wise sage, and Ian Holm can orate beautifully, but the character is also the conniving, bumbling comic relief who twats Corbin over the head in one scene. Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg is a ruthless and intimidating villain who almost chokes to death on a cherry. He's somehow a fragile idiot with a ridiculous accent and hairstyle, and a genuinely threatening murderous psychopath. Ruby Rod is a screeching, annoying sidekick with effeminate manners and dress, yet he's the one women are stampeding to see while ruggedly handsome Corbin is largely ignored. The film makes it clear that Ruby is basically hip deep in flesh whenever he's not on screen. Not only are the main characters hard to pin down, but every side character is also memorable. This is truly one of those no small parts movies. Everyone has either a fun costume, funny one-liner, or interesting personality trait. The movie's plot is needlessly convoluted. It's essentially a MacGuffin hunt for magic stones. The good guys want the stones to save the world, the bad guys want the stones to destroy the world. It should be simple, but there are so many factions, double crosses, and moving pieces to keep track of. A writer working under conventional wisdom would immediately work on streamlining everything. However, The Fifth Element runs in the opposite direction, doubling down on the complexity to facilitate farcical comedy and playful filmmaking. Take this scene for example. At face value, it's standard stuff. The president and his top general discuss strategy, while the villain's henchman listens in. But in this movie, the henchman's bug is a literal bug under remote control. The funny concept and challenge of the scene turns dry exposition into something interesting, and it ends in this terrific gag. Or take this scene where Corbin accepts the mission to go after the stones. We've seen this 1,000 times before. The high-ranking general goes to a retired badass to ask for his reluctant help. A cliché scene that spirals into a farce as each new door knocker injects the scene with hilarious physical comedy and sight gags, all while pushing the plot forward. Take the first exposition dump. It's made up of 3 beats. Cornelius sets the deadline and explains the lore, the Mandashewans are shot down by the Mangalores, and the president cuts Cornelius out of the mission. A typical screenplay would deliver these beats one after the other, but The Fifth Element dovetails them. Cornelius sets the deadline, and then we cut straight to the Montesquieuan. Some more lore, and then cut back to the Montesquieuans as they're shot down. We cut from this straight to Cornelius's reaction, as if he just saw what the audience saw. There's even room to foreshadow Zorg. It's only a short scene, and yet it delivers so much crucial information and sets up so many important plot points without ever slowing down the action. Or take the later scene where a jetliner takes off for the resort planet Floston Paradise. This scene intercuts between takeoff preparations, a comedy sex scene, Zorg killing his henchman, and Cornelius sneaking onto the ship. It makes the world feel lived in as we see blue-collar workers burning parasites off the ship. It uses edits for some more comedy.
Take that!
Mr. Rod! Oh.
And it syncs up a countdown to engineer a bigger climax. Oh, and it's all set to a synth reggae track because why not? Choices like these replace scenes we've seen 1,000 times before with more characterful and creative sequences. Which brings me to the most iconic scene of the entire film, the diva dance. This has all the strengths of the previous examples, it just goes harder. Cutting action to classical music is nothing new, but The Fifth Element once again puts that fresh spin on everything. A familiar ornate concert hall is juxtaposed with a stunning space vista and angelic alien singer. The slow first half of the aria underscores the emotion of the parallel scene. It's somber, dramatic, even moving. Just when the tone is settled though, the scene surprises everyone by suddenly turning into a martial arts fight scene set to a space-age fusion of classical vocals, synth, techno, and rock. There's fight choreography, which is equal parts Bruce Lee and the Three Stooges, there's Pavel Laguna's iconic dance moves, the excellent editing which synchronizes the action and music to lend every beat and punch extra impact. It's the kind of spectacle of movement and sound that the big screen was made for. No other film has a scene like this. In other words, it is something truly original and therefore totally spellbinding. In 2017, Besson and company attempted to make something of a spiritual successor to The Fifth Element with Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, based on the comics which inspires so much of the 90s film. Unfortunately, unlike The Fifth Element, Valerian divided critics and audiences and was a box office bomb. When compared to The Fifth Element, it's easy to see why the former broke through while the latter floundered. For all its amazing visuals, Valerian's aesthetics weren't all that original. In a lot of scenes, it ends up looking just like Star Wars or Avatar. It's not distinct the way The Fifth Element was. Despite some flashy long takes, the movie doesn't experiment with film grammar like The Fifth Element's cross-cutting sequences, and the score is discount John Williams courtesy of Alexandre Desplat. Outside the creative interdimensional market sequence, the film is also too conceptually conventional. There's pulp fun to be had in a lot of it, but it doesn't wow the viewer the way The Fifth Element does. The Fifth Element shows us that to break through as an original film, it must be totally original. It doesn't matter if a film isn't part of a franchise if it ends up delivering the exact same experience as another franchise. To stand out from the crowd, filmmakers should take a ground-up approach to their projects. Don't imitate what's already famous, be inspired by the obscure. Rethink how a film of any genre can look, sound, and feel. Play with all the elements and you never know, you might produce something great. That's what The Fifth Element did, and ironically, that's what every big franchise did when it first debuted. It's funny that while most Hollywood studios are busy chasing trends, they forget that trends are only set by breaking them. Star Wars was a sprawling, hopeful, family-friendly fantasy film that emerged into a cinematic landscape dominated by gritty thrillers, indie dramas, and disaster movies. The Matrix was a cutting-edge, stylishly delivered and utterly sincere statement of rebellion at a time when disaffection and conformity was the mainstream. Even the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a radical experiment in multimedia storytelling when it first appeared. Every single popular franchise that exists today only exists because it did something new, fresh, and original, and that's the way forward. In the modern world where generative AI can regurgitate any existing style, the challenge for filmmakers is to be more daring and experimental than ever before. To do what has never been done. Strive to be original so we can have more unique gems like The Fifth Element.
It's the best show I ever did.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on future uploads. On my Patreon, you can see videos early and ad-free. The link is in the description. Thank you to all of my patrons and members, with an ultra thanks to Stuart McInnes, Jonathan Wilbanks, Connor Matthews, Tim Spot, Eamon Kelly, Michael Hardy, County Ark, Mike Halsey, Olivia Computer, Bano, Jaron Walker, Tom, Director Kate, Patrick Fleming, Matthew Camille, Lilac Yane, Ed Mark Starr, Extreme Streamers, Howard Craig Kervik, and AS Caging 101. Thank you once again for watching, and until next time, have a good one.